What if I told you that everything you've been taught about attracting women is the very thing that's making you invisible to them? Because here's the brutal truth. 95.7% of women can't resist a man who embodies one thing most men fear: detachment. 1. The illusion of approval. Why most men stay invisible. From a young age, most men are indoctrinated with a dangerous narrative that the way to a woman's heart is through constant validation. Be sweet, be present, be attentive. That's what they say, right? And yet, men who follow that advice often end up confused, ghosted, or trapped in the friend zone. Why? Because seeking a woman's approval creates an energy of neediness, and neediness repels feminine attraction. You see, women aren't drawn to your compliments, your good morning texts, or your over-eagerness. They're drawn to what those things say about you. And if your actions scream, "Please like me," she instantly perceives you as a man lacking internal worth. The man who constantly tries to prove his value is unknowingly admitting he has none. Here's the hard truth. The more you chase, the more she withdraws. That's not because she's cruel. It's because female attraction is biologically and psychologically wired to desire strength, not physical, but emotional and spiritual. The man who validates himself, who doesn't seek approval but operates from self-certainty, becomes the most attractive force in the room. Imagine walking into a room and not needing anything from anyone. You're not hungry for attention. You're not desperate for validation. You're centered, complete. That kind of presence radiates power, and women feel it without a word being spoken. Most men confuse attention with attraction, but attention is cheap, it's reactive, it's impulsive. True attraction, that comes from admiration, from respect, from the magnetic pull of someone who doesn't need to be wanted. This is where the Stoic mindset changes everything. A Stoic man doesn't react to every emotion or opinion. He doesn't seek to be liked. He seeks to live in alignment with his principles. When you live like this, you stop chasing women and start choosing them. She won't remember the guy who gave her flowers after a week. She'll remember the guy who respected himself enough to walk away when her energy became inconsistent. She won't crave the man who was always available. She'll crave the man who had boundaries and purpose. So, if you're always wondering, why doesn't she like me when I treat her so well? Ask yourself this: are you treating her well because you want to, or because you're hoping to get something back? That subtle difference is everything. When your actions are fueled by the need for approval, they lose their power. But when they come from a place of fullness, confidence, and internal validation, they command attention. And that's the first brutal truth. The man who seeks a woman's approval becomes invisible. The man who approves of himself becomes irresistible. 2. The brutal truth. Detachment creates desire. Here's what most men never realize. The more you want her, the less she wants you. That's not a cynical mindset. It's biological, psychological, and brutally real. Desire doesn't thrive on desperation. It thrives on distance. The brutal truth is this: detachment creates desire. And the man who learns to let go becomes the man she can't stop thinking about. Let's break this down. When you chase a woman, constantly texting her, giving her attention, rearranging your life to fit hers, you're telling her, without words, that she's the center of your emotional universe. And while that may seem romantic, it actually signals weakness. Women are instinctively repelled by a man who abandons his power for them. She doesn't want to be your purpose. She wants to complement it. Detachment is not about ignoring her. It's about being so grounded in your own path, so focused on your growth, your mission, your inner peace, that you're never emotionally dependent on her behavior. Whether she texts or not, flirts or not, stays or walks, you remain unshaken. And this stoic stillness? It drives her wild. You see, when you detach, you send a different signal. I want you, but I don't need you. My world doesn't collapse if you leave it. That kind of presence creates curiosity, tension, mystery, the holy trinity of female attraction. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." The moment you internalize that truth, you stop trying to control what she does and start mastering how you respond. You stop chasing and start attracting. Women are deeply sensitive to masculine energy. When a man is detached, it doesn't mean he doesn't care. It means he's selective. It means his time, attention, and emotions are valuable. He doesn't give them to just anyone. And when a woman senses that your love isn't easily bought, she begins to crave it. Detachment also means you can walk away. And here's the paradox: the man who can walk away is often the one she can't let go of. When you stop reacting emotionally to her tests, when you stop proving yourself, apologizing for your standards, or sacrificing your dignity just to keep her, you become a rare breed. You're no longer the man she can control. You're the man she respects, and respect is the gateway to desire. So, the brutal truth: it's not your looks, money, or charm that make you irresistible. It's your ability to detach, your refusal to let her be the source of your identity. The more you master this, the more her mind, heart, and body will respond in ways even she doesn't fully understand. 3. Embodying stoic masculinity, the attractive edge. If you want to become the kind of man 95.7% of women can't resist, you don't have to change your face or your bank account. You have to change your energy, your psychology, your foundation. And that transformation begins when you embody stoic masculinity. So, what does that even mean? Stoic masculinity is not about being cold. It's not about being emotionally unavailable or pretending not to care. That's fake alpha behavior. Real stoic masculinity is calm, powerful presence. It's the ability to feel deeply but never be controlled by emotion. It's restraint in the face of chaos, clarity in the face of confusion. Women are emotionally intuitive. They can feel when a man is reactive, when he's easily angered, overly emotional, clingy, or insecure. That energy repels them. But when they meet a man who is calm, centered, and composed, they feel safe, not just physically, emotionally. And that's where the attraction begins. A stoic man doesn't chase highs or escape lows. He's consistent, reliable, grounded. He doesn't panic when a woman pulls back. He doesn't beg when she tests his boundaries. He simply observes, adjusts, and moves forward. Seneca said, "A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." That means most of your pain comes from emotional overreaction, not reality. Stoic masculinity frees you from that suffering. It gives you control over yourself. And self-control is sexy. It shows up in the way you speak, with weight and calmness. It shows in your posture, your eye contact, your refusal to react emotionally when challenged. You become the anchor in any storm, and women feel magnetized to that. When you're stoic, your value isn't in what you say, it's in what you don't say. You don't need to convince, prove, or perform. You let your presence speak louder than your words. This is the attractive edge most men overlook. They think it's about tactics, texting rules, pickup lines, tricks. But none of that matters if your energy screams, "I need you to like me." A stoic man says, energetically, "I like me. You're welcome to join, but I'm good either way." That edge, that calm detachment. That's what makes her think about you long after the conversation ends. 4. The power of emotional discipline. Control yourself. Command the room. You've seen it happen. A guy gets a little attention from a woman and suddenly he's changing his entire behavior. He becomes too eager, too available, too emotional. The moment she replies with a smiley face, he's hooked. When she goes cold, he spirals. That's not attraction, that's emotional instability, and it's the fastest way to lose respect. If you want to become a man women can't resist, you need to master emotional discipline. This is a pillar of stoic masculinity. It's the foundation of internal strength, because the man who can't control himself will always be controlled by others. Understand this. Emotions are not the enemy. It's your reaction to them that determines your power. The Stoics didn't deny their emotions. They acknowledged them and then chose the most rational, effective response. You feel jealousy? Good. That means you care, but don't act from it. You feel anger? Fine, but don't let it shape your next decision. You feel desire? That's natural, but never let it override your principles. The undisciplined man lives in emotional chaos. He texts out of anxiety. He argues out of insecurity. He overshares out of desperation. And women sense this instability. To them, it screams immaturity. Now compare that to the man who remains grounded regardless of how she behaves. She ignores his message. He stays calm. She flirts and then withdraws. He doesn't chase. He simply observes, adapts, and moves forward with clarity. This is emotional discipline, and it creates the kind of masculine energy that women respect deeply. Imagine walking into a room full of people, chaotic energy, loud voices, fake confidence, and then there's you, calm, silent, composed. You listen more than you speak. You don't seek approval. You don't force jokes. You sit like a man who knows exactly who he is. Women notice that. They feel it. They want it, because emotional discipline signals security, and security is one of the deepest female emotional triggers. So train yourself to respond, not react, to observe, not obsess, to feel emotions, but never be ruled by them. That's the man she can't resist, not because he's flashy or rich, but because he's safe. Not boring safe, but strong safe. The kind of safe that says, I've got me. I don't need you to regulate my emotions. And ironically, that's what makes her chase you. 5. Stop seeking validation. Become the source. Instead, here's a bitter truth that most men will never accept. Every time you seek validation, you lower your value. Every time you ask, do you still like me? Or fish for compliments, or check if she viewed your story, you're placing your power in her hands. Women don't fall for men who need approval. They fall for men who already approve of themselves. Validation-seeking behavior is subtle but destructive. You might not be begging, but if your actions are motivated by the hope that she'll give you attention, affection, or reassurance, you're not leading. You're performing. And women don't desire performers. They desire leaders. When your confidence comes from external approval, it will rise and fall with how others treat you. That's fragile. That's weak. The moment she pulls back, you start chasing. The moment she compliments you, you feel on top of the world. You're a leaf in the wind, blown around by her mood. But when your validation is internal, when you know your worth, live your truth, and stay aligned with your principles, you become unshakable. And that unshakable energy, that's irresistible. Seneca said, "A wise man is content with himself." That's not arrogance, that's mastery. It means you don't need applause to feel worthy. You don't need her texts to feel valued. You validate yourself through your actions, your discipline, your mission. You see, women are attracted to the energy of a man who doesn't need their validation. Why? Because it makes them wonder what he's grounded in. It creates mystery. It makes your attention feel earned, not given. And when something must be earned, it becomes valuable. Here's a simple test. Before you send that message or plan that date, ask yourself, am I doing this because I want to, or because I want a reaction? If it's the second, pause. You're moving from neediness, not strength. Instead, start becoming the source of validation for yourself and for others. Build something, improve your body, develop your mind, lead with purpose. You won't need her compliments when you see progress in the mirror. You won't need her replies when your life is full of meaning. You don't need to stop giving attention. You just need to give it from abundance, not emptiness. The man who no longer seeks validation becomes the man whose presence demands it. 6. Purpose over pleasure, the silent magnetism of a mission-driven man. There's something uniquely powerful about a man with purpose. A man who wakes up each day, not wondering who's texting him back or checking who's watching his stories, but instead moves with precision, chasing something bigger than validation or attention. He's not distracted by short-term pleasures. He's dialed into his long-term mission. This man doesn't make women his priority. He makes purpose his oxygen. And paradoxically, that's exactly why women chase him. You see, most men get lost trying to be romantic or available 24/7. They mold themselves around her schedule. They're always on call. But that availability costs them the one thing that creates attraction: scarcity. When you sacrifice your purpose for pleasure, whether it's for parties, hookups, or temporary attention, you dilute your masculine edge. Your energy becomes chaotic. Your value plummets. Because you're signaling to the world and to her that you can be easily distracted. Now picture a man whose calendar is full of ambition. He trains, he builds, he learns, he creates. His time is limited because his life is full, not busy for the sake of ego, but full of substance. When he speaks, he doesn't ramble, he's precise. When he spends time with a woman, it's intentional, not because he needs her to fill his emptiness, but because he chooses to share his abundance. That's the kind of man who draws women in effortlessly. He's rare. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And that's the essence here. You don't talk about your purpose, you live it, you breathe it, and you never compromise it. This doesn't mean you avoid love or connection. It means your mission comes first. Your goals, your growth, your greatness, that's your foundation. Everything else is a complement, not a core. When you walk this path, women sense something different in you. You're not like the other guys who spiral when a girl takes too long to respond. You're not seeking dopamine hits from attention. You've replaced cheap thrills with deep fulfillment. And the truth is, when a man commits to purpose over pleasure, he doesn't just become more attractive, he becomes unstoppable. 7. Silent strength. Why calm confidence beats loud charisma. The loudest guy in the room is usually the weakest. He's performing, craving attention, overcompensating. But the man who speaks less, moves slower, and holds steady eye contact without flinching. That's the one women remember. That's the man who owns his space. Stoic masculinity isn't theatrical, it's internal power, the kind that doesn't demand to be seen but is impossible to ignore. It's in the way you sit, breathe, walk. It's the quiet strength that whispers, "I don't need to prove anything, because I already know who I am." Women are hardwired to detect congruence. They can tell when a man's confidence is real or rehearsed. And real confidence, calm confidence, isn't loud. It's not filled with bravado. It's rooted in self-respect and self-trust. The Stoic man isn't passive. He simply doesn't chase validation through volume. He observes more than he speaks. He pauses before responding. And when he acts, it's decisive. This kind of energy drives women crazy. Not because you're cold, but because you're in control. You're not fazed by her tests. You're not emotionally volatile. You're a safe space in a chaotic world. Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Calm confidence is born from adversity, from failing, rising, reflecting, and repeating the process until you no longer flinch under pressure. When a woman meets a man like that, she feels it. She's drawn to the mystery of his restraint, the depth behind his stillness, and in a world addicted to noise, your silence becomes a weapon. Be that man. 8. Scarcity is power. Why being less available creates more desire. Let's be honest. What's rare is valuable. What's always available becomes overlooked. It's human nature. We want what we feel we could lose. We crave what isn't easy to get. And yet most men sabotage themselves by being too available. The more you show up instantly, the more you text first, the more you're always free, the more you devalue yourself. You become expected, predictable, easy. Scarcity creates tension, and tension creates desire. This doesn't mean you play games. It means you build a life so full, so purpose-driven, so valuable, that you're simply not always accessible. You become the man whose time is earned, not demanded. Women respect a man who values his own time, who has a full schedule, who doesn't rearrange his life for every date, who says no without guilt. That's the man she thinks about after the night ends. That's the man who lingers in her mind. Being scarce is not about avoiding connection. It's about having boundaries. It's about teaching her, subtly, that your time is a gift, not a given. That kind of energy, it makes her chase you. 9. Walk away power, the ultimate form of strength. Here's the final brutal truth. The most irresistible man is the one who's not afraid to walk away. That power, walk away power, is the ultimate expression of self-respect. It tells the world, I want love, but I won't beg for it. I value connection, but I'll never stay where I'm not respected. Most men cling. They fear being alone. They tolerate disrespect. They stay in situations that drain them just to avoid discomfort. But the man who walks away when standards are crossed, that man terrifies people. Because he can't be controlled, he can't be manipulated, he won't be broken. That power doesn't make you heartless. It makes you whole. When a woman senses that you can walk away, not as a tactic, but as a natural reflection of your standards, she suddenly sees you as the prize. She thinks twice before pulling back. She respects your boundaries, and she desires your presence more because she knows it's not guaranteed. This isn't about ego, it's about identity. The man who has walk-away power knows exactly what he brings to the table. He doesn't fear rejection because he's already chosen himself. Be that man. 10. You are the prize. Act like it. Live like it. Here's the truth most men forget. You are the prize. Not because you're entitled, not because you're better, but because you've done the work. You've built yourself. You've sharpened your mind. You've owned your weaknesses. And you no longer live for approval. You live for alignment. A man who treats himself like the prize moves differently. He doesn't over-explain. He doesn't over-pursue. He doesn't tolerate disrespect. He doesn't lower his standards just to feel loved. He's the fire, not the moth. The mountain, not the wanderer. And that kind of man, that kind of grounded, intentional, self-validated man, that's the man 95.7% of women can't resist. If this hit deep, it means you're ready to level up. You're done chasing, done begging, done being average. You're ready to become the man women respect, desire, and remember. So if you're serious about becoming that man, hit that like button, subscribe for more brutal psychology and stoic mastery, and share this video with a brother who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below. What's the one trait you believe makes a man truly irresistible? Let's talk about it. This is Behavior Insight, and you just unlocked the truth most men never will. We'll see you in the next one.